Oh! Oh! Oh!
All right, we're on.
Ready, Phil?
We're on in 5, 4.
When the clock struck 6, it meant one thing for Ron Burgundy and his news team. Go time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Motorboating with Mammeries. This is Tanks for the Mammeries and we're playing World of Warships. We have a very large news flash for you guys today. I've got all the patch notes. Hopefully they've all made it into the game, but this is for patch 0.5.5, which went in today. A big download that made you change a lot of files and also change the way the game loads so that it should be faster going forward. So as we have some gameplay right now from this patch, I will go ahead and discuss with you the different patch notes, changes to the game, the maps, things like that. So while we're watching this battle here, it's me on a rainy, windswept sea. Let's go ahead and just get right into the news flash. So basically, one thing you'll notice pretty much right off the bat, if you go to your settings page, or go to the settings tab, under controls you will have the ability to change your crosshairs from the standard old style crosshairs to one of several new types. So what you want to do is select a crosshair for binocular view. You can now select a crosshair for binocular view using the Controls tab of the Settings window. At the moment, you can select a dynamic crosshair or one of several static crosshair types. With the dynamic crosshair, the distance between the vertical marks on the horizontal crosshair line will scale when the camera zooms in or out. You'll see that with my ship here in this battle in a few minutes. You can select a crosshair both in port and in battle. In addition to the standard static crosshair, we have permanently added popular crosshairs made by some of the players Z1000, Decease, and Mebius LW. Another thing that you'll notice from this video right now as it's playing is there are now in-game weather effects. They have implemented mechanics to make it possible to change weather conditions on game maps, that is, to change both visual settings for the maps and the parameters of ships and aircraft based on the weather. Random selection of displayed weather conditions at the start of the battle has been introduced on the following maps: Ocean, Solomon Islands, Strait, Big Race, New Dawn, the Atlantic, Fault Line, Islands of Ice, Two Brothers, Land of Fire, Shatter, Mountain Range, Hotspot, and Trap. On these maps, players will have a chance to see various bad weather effects. See, this is where I was talking about the crosshairs. You see, as I zoomed in, the reticle markers on the horizontal line spread out more, and this allows you a little bit more accurate firing at long distance. So that's a pretty good example of the dynamic crosshair. So that's the one that I'm using, dynamic crosshair. Anyway, so back to the weather. So on these maps, players will have a chance to see the bad weather effects, rain, snow, heavy low clouds, things like that, during the countdown before the battle starts. After the battle starts, these effects will be disabled and the players will see the usual good weather. Weather settings for these maps are cosmetic only and will not affect gameplay. The chance to see bad weather effects on these maps is about 50%. For the north map, we added the cyclone weather conditions, which is heavy rain, fog, heavy low clouds, which occur with 50% probability. During the cyclone, the maximum surface spotting detection range ship to ship is 8 kilometers, and the maximum air spotting detection range ship to aircraft, aircraft to ship, or aircraft to aircraft is 3 kilometers. The chance of a cyclone and its duration are random values that may significantly differ from one battle to the next. The cyclone will start randomly in the time period between the 2nd and 10th minutes of each battle that it's in. The change from sunny weather to a cyclone takes 120 seconds, and the cyclone duration can be from 2 minutes to 10 minutes long. During bad weather, the aircraft carriers will be able to spot only the targets that are spotted by their aircraft or within line of sight. Dependent on current weather conditions, the length of the view cone displayed on the minimap will change to match the spotting range. When the weather starts to change to bad, the following message is displayed: Cyclone inbound. Spotting range will be decreased to 8 kilometers, or a different value depending on the scenario. When the change from bad to good weather is complete, the following message is displayed: Cyclone is over, spotting range restored. Moreover, when the weather changes, an audio cue is played and the music track is changed as well. I don't have music up very loud on my game at all. Don't really care for it, so I don't have the music there. Sound system is the next topic in the news flash here. They've implemented audio feedback for crossing map boundaries. When the player's ship crosses a map boundary, a special sound effect will fade in and several sound groups will be muted. This sound effect will be played until the ship leaves the map boundary area and returns to the battlefield. They've added new music tracks, including tracks with vocals. They've introduced special sounds for long-range hits on ships and the landscape, played when using binocular view. They've started working on the points of interest technology within the game's soundstage. Sound sources that are visible to the player have priority over sources that are invisible to the player. However, priorities will not be changed for important sounds. Improved aircraft engine sounds are now in the game. Now the engines have more realistic sounds, and the performance has been improved for these sounds. Improved sound design for ship destruction effects. Now you can set the volume of gunfire to a personally comfortable level in the sound settings on your settings tab. However, you cannot completely mute the gunfire sounds. There are also new environment sounds customized for different ports. So all the different ports, whether it's New York or Japan or wherever, will have different sounds for the ports. They've enhanced the sound effects for fighter attacks. For the binocular view, they've implemented ambient voice communications about detecting enemy ships and added sound effects to standard voice messages such as the ship's public announcement system. They've implemented settings for dynamic range width. By default, a wide dynamic range is set. Players can toggle dynamic range presets in order to choose the most suitable range for their equipment. Narrow dynamic range is recommended for small speakers or built-in notebook speakers. Wide dynamic range, set by default, is recommended for sufficiently powerful audio systems and headphones. If the wide dynamic range checkbox is cleared, strong range compression is applied to various sound groups. This results in normalization of the volume level for loud and quiet sounds. Because of this, quiet sounds become much louder and are better perceived when small speakers are used. They've implemented full screen effects for fires. They've added a new full screen effect for fires on the player's ship. This effect is enabled by default. A new option, Reduced Fire Effect, is available in settings. If this option is enabled, then the previously implemented fire effect will be displayed. The fire effects are displayed in all camera modes. The effect visuals will change depending on the fire intensity. When there's a minor fire, when 1 or 2 parts of the ships are on fire, or when there's a massive fire, when 3 to 4 parts of the ships are on fire. They've also changed rendering of the shell model. Pardon me. Implemented functionality for rendering artillery shells in flight. Visually, a new shell model consists of 3 parts: the shell body, the shell end, and the heat haze around the shell. This new shell model is visible when the camera zooms in, and I've seen it. It actually looks like a shell as opposed to a point of light with a trail of fire behind it. Visuals for sinking ships. They've improved the mechanics of sinking ships. Now the ships will sink in a more realistic manner. The ships will sink in different ways depending on their type, the cause of their destruction, and the amount of damage they received in battle. So I've had ships turn turtle and go upside down by capsizing, settled slowly in the water due to flooding, etc. Aircraft carriers have been rebalanced from tiers 8 through 10. At the moment, encounters solely between aircraft carriers is a common thing in high-tier battles. They think that this situation negatively affects gameplay and makes it less interesting. In most high-tier battles where aircraft carriers are present in the teams, the carriers encounter their opponents first at the very start of the battle, and all players who participate in this battle just have to leave the outcome of this game to chance. The players on the team that loses a carrier at the beginning of the battle are at a great disadvantage and in fact just wait for defeat for the rest of the battle. To prevent this from happening in as many battles as possible, we made the defensive AA fire consumable available on high-tier aircraft carriers. Unlike the counterparts available on cruisers, this consumable is intended for the aircraft carrier's own protection from enemy air attacks and is very poorly suited to helping allied ships. Sorry, ran into a guy there. I was too busy focused in on trying to kill these ships and smacked into that guy, but all's well that ends well. So they've added the defensive AA fire consumable to tier 8 through 10 aircraft carriers. Some of those details I'll go into a little bit just as an example. Defensive AA fire parameters for U.S. aircraft carriers. For example, the Lexington, it's active for 120 seconds. The anti-aircraft power multiplier for 40mm anti-aircraft guns is 1.05. The reload time for regular and enhanced consumables is 360 or 240. The number of uses is 1 or 2. 2 if you have the enhanced, 1 if you have the regular consumable. That's just an example. They do the same thing for the Essex and the Midway. For the Japanese aircraft carriers, defensive AA fire parameters for Japanese aircraft carriers, for example, if we take the Shikaku, it's active for 120 seconds. The multiplier for the 25mm AA guns is 1.75%. The reload time for regular is 360, for enhanced is 240. The number of uses is 1 for regular and 2 for enhanced. And they do the same thing for the Tahoe and Hakuru, just so you get the idea. Changes in ship parameters. They've changed the Kirov's cruiser's draught. She is now 88 centimeters deeper in the water. The Kirov's draft now corresponds with her full load weight. Altogether, this will have a positive effect on her survivability because the surrounding armor box is deeper in the water and thus less vulnerable. Improved cruiser Hermelin. Her firing range was extended by 800 meters from 7.8 kilometers to 8.6 kilometers. In order to effectively implement the advantages of Hermelin's artillery, its firing range has been slightly extended. This will help novice players get the hang of the German cruiser branch. That guy got totally robbed right then. He was trying to ram kill me, and I burned him out literally within about a foot of the front of my ship. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, he got robbed. There's some really weird things going on, by the way, guys, in these replays. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a aircraft marker that was stuck. And also, apparently, if you can read the chat there in the chat box, that guy was saying that my ship had a friendly target marker over it. Now, I haven't noticed bad target markers, but a couple of other people were saying that they've noticed that some ships have no target markers, some ships are grayed out, and show no information across the top, and other people were telling me that they are seeing friendly markers over enemy ships. So I don't know if that's the case or not, or what was going on here, but obviously this guy's saying he didn't shoot at me because I was showing a friendly ship. Well, dude, I was shooting at him and I was hitting him, so he should have been shooting back at me. Anyway, moving back on to some changes in ship parameters. Upgraded battleship Izumo. Shells from her Top Gun are now available with a stock hull. To ease the progress to the top configuration of the Tier 9 battleship Izumo, all her hull configurations were supplied with the top shells. Previous shells were not sufficient enough. For the battleship Izuchi, the steering gear and magazine modules have been made more resistant to penetration by HE shell fragments. Moreover, the rate of fire was increased for her main guns. Now they can fire every 25 seconds versus every 30 seconds previously. To provide a better gameplay experience with the premium battleship Izuchi, they improved the armor protection of her magazine and steering gears, increased her rate of fire, and she has to fight where fighting at maximum distances her armor was not good enough previously. The rate of fire increase was put in because she's most often purchased and used by novice players. The chances of setting fire with HE-46 shells available on Soviet destroyers of Tier 5 and above are increased by 1% to 8%. They were previously 7%. In order to improve the efficiency of Soviet destroyers when countering large targets, they've increased the chance of setting fire on them with HE shells. They've changed the parameters of some torpedoes on the Kagero and Shimakaze. As a partial solution to the torpedo grid problem, we've increased the spotting range of Type 93 Model 1 and Type 93 Model 3 torpedoes from 1.7 kilometers to 2.5 kilometers, and from 1.7 to 1.9. Moreover, the range of the Type 93 Model 3 torpedoes is reduced from 15 kilometers to 12, while the speed of the Type 93 Model 1 torpedo was reduced from 67 to 62 knots. By implementing these changes, they want to make it easier to avoid being hit by randomly launched long-range torpedoes for all players with decent and good game skills that play at high-level ships. So they're not saying, like, for the idiot battleship driver who always steams in a straight line. They're talking about guys who really are paying attention, but somebody in the enemy team launches torpedoes from 20 kilometers away and it randomly hits somebody 5 minutes into the game. They've added torpedoes to the Fubuki, Kagero, and Shimakaze as compensation for players that prefer a more aggressive and risky style of play with Japanese destroyers. We added short-range yet much quicker Type 93 Model 2 to the Fubuki and Kagero, and Type F3 to the Kagero and Shimakaze. These types of torpedoes that players would sample on the cruisers Ibuki and Zao respectively. Fast speed, short range. Let's see. They've increased hit points for turrets housing small caliber main guns and main guns of calibers under 130 millimeters by 1.5 and 2.6 times respectively. To reduce the risk of a complete loss of one of the main types of weapon, we've increased the number of hit points for small caliber main gun turrets to make it more difficult to destroy such guns by random hit. The primary reason for this is for an increase in the number of cruisers using rapid fire artillery. They've increased the range of Soviet torpedoes Model 1908 and Model 1910 to 4 kilometers. They say they've carefully examined the behavior patterns of novice players who choose Soviet destroyers. Often they tend to play in quite risky fashion, but what nearly all of them lack is a longer range for Soviet torpedoes, while the main guns are considerably less important than in earlier stages of the journey along this branch of this type of warship. That's why lower tier destroyers within the branch are moved closer to the standard characteristics typical of ships belonging to these tiers and get a longer torpedo range than the one they used to have. They've reduced the increase in detection range as viewed from ships resulting from gunfire by 1 kilometer for the destroyers Storozhevoy, Dursky, and Izyaslav. So if I pronounce this wrong, forgive me. The standard coefficient for an increase in the detectability range typical of Soviet destroyers was excessive at lower tiers, which is why they decided to soften its effect. They've reduced the duration of the incapacitation time applicable to engines from 120 seconds to 60 seconds. Long engine incapacitation times were the cause of concern for many players and could be regarded as a serious incentive to acquire the Enhanced Damage Control Party 2 consumable, taking its maximum efficiency into account. This created a lot of discomfort for thrifty players, people who were too cheap to buy the premium consumable. Therefore, we reduced the duration of the engine capacitation time to 1 minute. In fact, this is the minimum time, without taking improvement from upgrades into account, required to effectively stop any warship in the game and keep her static for a short period of time. I really liked that they did that. I thought it was bullshit that it was 2 minutes for your engine to be down while everybody was focus firing you. American bombers under attack started to drop bombs over a larger area. Dispersion ellipse diameter increase is now not 125% but 150%. Introducing the defensive AA fire for aircraft carriers created too big of an advantage for U.S. ships whose bomb dispersion area didn't significantly change when attacking with active AA interference. The British destroyer Campbelltown can no longer be destroyed by blowing up the stern magazine. The Pensacola has towers and hull armor increased by 1 to 6 millimeters. And that's mainly because they had some change in data for gun mounts and other cruisers using the same guns. For the Budyani, anti-torpedo defense counted on the common rules. Previously 0.9% protection from torpedoes, now no protection at all. They fixed an error with input accuracy. The factor was rounded to 2 decimal places, now rounded to the thousandth, similar to all ships in the game. This is basically just a technical change. The Svetlana, they made the engine module more resistant to penetration by HE shell fragments and decreased the engine module size. The ship's engine was modeled with excessive accuracy and came out too big compared to the other ships per tier. Decreasing its size will lead to the decrease of the number of critical engine hit damages. The Bogatyr fixed the automatic camera switch between the main battery gun groups. It would change the camera switch scheme, which could have caused some difficulties when firing and maneuvering at the same time. For the Kirov, they fixed an error causing visual blackening of the hull where the superstructure was damaged. And there are some economic changes. All price corrections are aimed for keeping the same level overall cost of the leveling, which changed because of the introduction of new modules. I'm going to get smoked by torpedo here. Man, I got to tell you what, this aircraft carrier, man, he was out for me. It was like I screwed his mom or something. Of course, that was an outstanding torpedo drop. I'll give him credit for that. That I only took 2 hits. Not 3. Whoops. Yeah, so this is really going to hurt. But not a whole lot I could do about it. He found me. He put in 2 good shots on me. I'm going to pay more attention to him next time, but he certainly hurt me. And my anti-aircraft guns just aren't that great on this ship. Anyway, for some price changes. So, Fubuki, the top hull experience level went from 19,500 down to 16,500. That's a reduction of 3,000. The credits reduced also by 100,000. Top torpedo tubes, the price is reduced by 4,000 in experience and 300,000 in credits. The Kagero standard hull experience was reduced by 3,000, credits by 200,000. The top hull, the experience required was reduced by 4,000 and credits by 200,000. There's some other credit changes and experience changes for the Kagero as well. Won't get into all of those. Shimakaze, the top torpedo tubes, the experience price was reduced by 22,000 and the credits by 1,100,000. They've made some changes to game locations in the ports as well. The New York port has been reworked for daytime illumination, which, I don't know, I kind of like the nighttime illumination, but I guess you couldn't see your ship well enough. But anyway, New York, it's now daytime. They've added 2 new maps. The first new map is called Mountain Range, and it's in the South China Sea. The description is as follows. The South China Sea has been the subject of territorial disputes and military conflicts since the 18th century. You know, modern anyway. I'm sure the Chinese were out there banging each other up way before the 18th century. But anyway, this sea was an arena for intense action during World War II as well. It is in this sea that the naval battleship force, with full freedom to maneuver in open waters, was sunk by aircraft attacks alone for the first time ever. That was the Japanese destroying the British battleships that had fled from Singapore and Hong Kong, I guess. Anyway, strings of exotic islands and vertical cliffs are fraught with danger, hiding the enemy. Trident is another map, an archipelago of small and low islands in the Indian Ocean. During any war, the Indian Ocean was a favorite for pirates and raiders. It was a point of convergence for transportation routes between and to colonies belonging to the British Empire. It was a honeypot for raiding operations conducted by the Imperial Japanese Navy, another militant empire controlling vast territorial expanses. On this map, visuals were implemented for different times of day. 4 visual scenarios were added to the public test: evening, morning, night, twilight, dawn. This set of scenarios may change during the release. I haven't seen that map yet, so I don't know. They've added onshore details to the following maps: the Solomon Islands, Two Brothers, the Atlantic, and Shatter. They've had some balance changes to maps. The Trap and the Atlantic maps were reworked on the basis of feedback from players and analysis of the statistical data. Moreover, spawn positions for the ships in both teams was revived for the Trap map. The Trap map is available for Tier 8 through 10 battles in domination mode. They've received a lot of feedback, and in particular the feedback they received indicated that most battle encounters on the Trap map tended to shift to the lower left part of the map. The statistical data that they accumulated had proven that such a shift did happen. Because of this, they have extensively reworked this map in order to make its upper right part more accessible and popular. Now, if you look at my ship sinking here, or these ships sinking here, you see it turned turtle, it capsized, and now we're seeing the bottom of the ship. That's kind of cool. Engines are still running. Large islands at spawn positions. For both teams, large islands have been moved away from the spawn positions. Now nothing should be in the way when proceeding towards the chosen flank. This is especially true of the right flank. One of the islands has been moved to the upper right corner of the map to become a visual reference for the map boundary on this side of the map. Eastern part of the archipelago. The eastern part of the map contained too much open water and was rather monotonous as a result. Because of this, they moved large islands, mostly from the spawn positions, to the upper right part of the map and closer to the map center, and replaced the volcano with a small oblong island. Thus, a chain of 4 islands was created in the upper right part of the map. This chain can be used as cover for detour maneuvers. The spawn positions were moved up and to the right, so it would be easier for you to reach the upper right part of the map. Moreover, the spawn positions are now closer to the map center to effectively decrease the time required to enter combat with the enemy. The volcano that used to be in the right part of the map has now been moved to the left, right to the center of the atoll. Moreover, it has become half as big. Now a small additional piece of cover is available in the middle of the atoll. This cover can be used when fighting to get control of key areas. On the Atlantic map, which is available for Tier 9 and 10 battles in domination and standard battle modes, they decided the middle part of this map contained too much open water, and due to this provides too little tactical variety. To fix that, they put the islands in a more dense formation around the key area in the middle, and at the same time the position of the key area remained the same. The center part of the map, they moved some islands from the map edges and spawn positions to the map center, which resulted in less open water around the central key area. The idea was to make the central part of the map safer and provide more tactical variety there. At the same time, the upper team want to have less obstructions en route to key area C. There's some more information on that for Key Area A, etc., but we'll move on. The tiers of the desert map. They've added the tiers of the desert map into the list of maps available for ranked battles and team battles. For this map, the scenario with the 3 key areas has been selected. When captured, a key area adds 3 points every 5 seconds. Fixes and improvements on available maps. So there's a bunch of bug fixes and improvements for a lot of the different maps. They fixed a bug that caused damage to be incorrectly inflicted to ships in the introductory mission. Sometimes it was impossible to destroy an enemy ship when it was hit when it had few hit points left. For the introductory mission, they've readjusted the parameters for enemy ships so that it would take less time to destroy them. They fixed an issue with an incorrect spawn position for teams on straits and hotspot maps. In some cases, the ships will be divided into groups unevenly. They fixed an issue with an incorrect spawn position for aircraft carrier when in a division with a battleship on the tiers of the desert map. They fixed a bug that caused an incorrect spawn position for a battleship on Shatter map when played with a division member. Spawn positions revised on certain maps. They reworked ship spawn positions on Land of Fire and Islands of Ice maps for ranked battles and team battles. To decrease the time required to enter combat with the enemy, they've readjusted the distances between the spawn positions of players on opposing teams on the Islands of Ice, Trap, Land of Fire, Shatter, and Strait maps in random battles. Now they've made some changes to the matchmaker settings. For the Two Brothers, Hotspot, and Land of Fire maps, they've moved one level up in the matchmaker. The Two Brothers map will now be available for tiers 7 through 10. Used to be tiers 6 through 10. The Hotspot map will now be available for tiers 8 through 10. Used to be 7 through 10. The Land of Fire map will now be available in tiers 8 through 10. Used to be tiers 7 through 10. They've readjusted the mechanics for decreasing propulsion power when in contact with a map boundary. And now ships will lose power propulsion faster in these cases. The North map has been excluded from ranked battles and team battles. For the game client file system, when you guys are downloading this patch, you'll notice that there's a big download, and then they say they've got to change a bunch of things. You don't have the latest game, and then they update a bunch more files and delete a bunch of old stuff. What they did was they optimized the game client file storage structure. The game client files are packed in a package as per the battle type and map, thus reducing the number of files and battle loading time as well as the port loading time. Other changes they've made, they've harshened the penalty for damaging and destroying allied ships. From now on, a player can receive the team killer status even if they cause relatively slight damage to an ally. A player will instantly receive the team killer status when they destroy an allied ship, except for destruction by ramming. They've added functionality for marking a ship as a favorite in the carousel. Right-click on the ship icon on the carousel, then select Set as Favorite from that list. The ships are marked as favorite will always be displayed at the beginning of the carousel unless other filters are applied to these ships. The favorite mark is stored on the player's profile on the server side. Also, there are new filters for the carousel to make it possible to select only ships with or without commanders. They've added functionality for sorting the ships in the carousel by the last time a ship was used in battle. They've added the functionality for displaying 3 or 4 rows of ships in a compact carousel view, as you guys probably noticed in my port. It is possible to do this if you have the proper screen resolution. They've added functionality for changing the selected filter without opening the main filter panel. To modify a certain filter without opening the main filter panel, click on the desired filter above the carousel. So you can change it to tier type, to nationality type, to ship type. You can change it to any of those things just by clicking those buttons. In the confirmation windows for purchasing, researching, or mounting in-game items, hints with their parameters and descriptions are now displayed when the cursor is placed over the icon of the corresponding item. In the confirmation windows for purchasing, the functionality for selecting the in-game currency if an item is available for purchase with either credits or doubloons was added. For an upgrade mounted on a ship, the destroy option is replaced with a sell option. Now additional ship parameters are displayed in the port. Torpedo protection, percentage values of decreasing damage from torpedo hits and the risk of flooding. Initial shell velocity for main battery shells. Initial shell velocity for secondary battle shells. Detectability range of torpedoes. For attack aircraft with rear gunners, the damage caused to the enemy by their self-defense armament. That is a parameter that's now displayed. Common ship name abbreviations are now used in lists and other GUI items where the text length is limited. The detectability range term was replaced with visibility. They fixed a bug which caused the squadron's markers indication during takeoff while they were out of observers' view range. Whatever. Interface markers on the battle screen underwent a stage of technical optimization, reduced the number of freezes when in battle. They've added a destroyed status to ship markers. In the Controls tab, they added a new option in the Battle Camera Settings group. Always start the battle completely zoomed out. By default, this option is disabled. When enabled, the battle camera will always be zoomed out as far as possible when the battle starts. All other settings will be ignored. Otherwise, the battle camera will be focused on a main turret during the countdown before the battle starts. This option works for cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. If the player presses the same square on a tactical map or mini-map multiple times, only one attention to square message is displayed in the battle chat. No more map spamming. They added the field reason in the system notifications regarding the addition of in-game valuables. Okay. They've added the functionality for flashing the game client icon displayed on the taskbar. The game icon will start to flash if a game window is out of focus or not active, meaning minimized, overlap by another window, and so on. It'll do this for 5 seconds before the countdown prior to the battle start ends, or when the players entered the battle that was already in progress. So if you've got a battle countdown going on and you've got the screen minimized, it will flash right before the battle's about to start to give you a friendly reminder that you need to be in the game. Now the multiplier factor is not applied to a ship's detectability range for 20 seconds after a shot from the main battery is fired. If at the moment of the shot the ship cannot be detected by the enemy, even with the potential detectability range increase being applied. So, that's weird. I'm not really sure I understand what that means. Now the ship multiplier factor is not applied to a ship's detectability range for 20 seconds after a shot from the main battery is fired. If, at the moment of the shot, the ship cannot be detected by the enemy, even with the potential detectability range increase being applied. Okay, whatever. They've integrated the Tobii IX technology, updated the version of the in-game web browser, reduced micro-stuttering of ships during the battle when network connection is unstable, improved the visual quality of wave crests, and decreased flashing artifacts when they are far from the player's point of view. When the game client is launched, a randomly selected background image is displayed on the game loading screen. The same image may be displayed for several game launches. A randomly selected video is played on the login screen. The same video may be played for several game launches. Getting down to the end here, let's see. In team battles, in the team battle session schedule, different time zones are displayed depending on the region. UTC for RU in Asia, CET and CEST for the EU region, CST for the CN region, PST, PDT for the North American region. Low graphic settings will now be set by default in automatic detection of users' graphic settings for 32-bit operation systems. If you are not using 64-bit, then you will automatically get low graphic settings as your default. They've made some team battle matchmaker fixes. Fixed an issue that allowed 2 battles in a row against the same opponent. The possibility of longer waiting time over 3 minutes has been reduced. Long waiting time is only possible where there is no suitable opponent in the matchmaker. Changed team settings. Minimum amount of players required for getting into a battle is now 2. I've also noticed this on the cooperative mode, that if you don't have enough players to make a full team in cooperative mode, after a certain amount of time, they'll drop you into a team with AI on your side. So if there's 3 of you, they'll give you the 3 of you plus a number of AI players to fill out your team and then go up against the AI on the other side. I've also noticed the AI is extremely aggressive now, much more aggressive than it was before. Minimum amount of players required to get into a team battle is now 2. Minimum amount of team battles played required for creating a second team is now 3. Anyway, so that's the big stuff that I've noticed, guys. Those are the patch notes specifically. You can see there from the games that I've played that I am using the dynamic crosshairs. Also, if you were a beta tester, you now have this beta test flag, which you can fly on your ship. It doesn't really do anything for you, but it lets other people know that you were a beta tester. What you do is you go to flags in your port, and if you click on flags, this red CBT flag will be available for you if you were a beta tester to put onto your ship. So that's about it. So there's a couple of new maps. There's a bunch of map changes. For balance, there were some changes to ship economics, a whole bunch of changes related to the coding of the game, and there you have it. So I know there's other people putting out stuff on the USS Texas and things like that. I haven't seen the Texas yet in battle nor in port. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was a long read. I do apologize. That's why I was trying to have some gameplay in the background going on there while I went through the patch notes with you guys. So if you are about to download World of Warship, expect that it will take a good amount of time if you don't have a super fast internet connection. It took my very good computer and extremely fast internet connection probably about 15 minutes to do everything that needed to be done. And that was from downloading the patch update to deleting the old files to changing over the file system to then adding additional updates and then deleting old files to allow me to play. So I'm using a fiber optic GPON connection, which means I've got very, very fast fiber, and I've got a very fast computer, and it still took about 15 minutes. So those of you who are using laptops or things like that, you may find that it takes much longer for you. So be prepared for that. There are a number of glitches in this patch. Hopefully they will fix those in the next few days. But there are glitches like when you go to denote enemy aircraft or any aircraft fire, that got stuck. As I mentioned before, there are some issues with friendly ships displaying enemy symbols and enemy ships displaying friendly symbols. There are apparently ships that I believe it's related to camouflage, but if you are in the game with certain ships, your ship may not show up as either a friendly or an enemy. It could be completely grayed out. And that's really pretty much most of what I've got in the way of updates. So I'll go ahead and shut up now after a couple of minor announcements, and then I will let you guys just watch the rest of us and in the news flash. So a couple of minor announcements for you. I'm playing a lot of Armored Warfare these days, and you can find one of my recent videos on the Armored Warfare website under Contributors Part 18, where I did interviews with two of the Obsidian Entertainment staff, a couple of really great guys who are designers and map makers who decided to, for whatever reason this past Sunday, sit down with me and take about 2 hours to play some video games with me and talk about Armored Warfare. So that's really cool. Those are up on my YouTube channel as well as the Armored Warfare webpage. Then I am now up on YouTube. So look for Tanks for the Mammeries on YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube. I'm here on YouTube, right? Yeah, I'm up on YouTube. You're watching this on YouTube. I'm a dumbass. Right, so I am up on Facebook, the other social media thing. I now have a Facebook page, Tanks for the Mammeries on Facebook. I will be having contests, giveaways, and other things on that Facebook page. So feel free to check it out if you're on Facebook. You can like me there, leave comments, funny pictures, links to your videos. I will let all of that display on my Facebook page. Also, I wanted to talk a bit more about some veterans organizations that I am getting requests from for people who want to be involved in clans and Armored Warfare. So I haven't forgotten about that. I will be making another Armored Warfare video, and when I do, I will be making note about the clan invitations for veterans on the North American server and talk to you a bit more about their organization. So if you're interested in playing Armored Warfare and you are a veteran of any service on the North American server, including Canada, whatever, there is a clan for you that you can join to play Armored Warfare, and I'll be discussing that in detail on my next Armored Warfare video. Anyway, this is it for Motorboating with Mammeries Newsflash. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I know it's a lot of me droning on there, and I apologize for that, but we'll just go ahead and shut up now and let you guys get on with watching this battle. This is Tanks for the Mammeries playing World of Warships. The series is Motorboating with Mammeries Newsflash. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the high seas.